Let's get one thing clear from the beginning. Beautiful women are not drawn to men for shallow reasons, not the women who know their worth, not the women who have done the inner work, not the women who wake up every morning with intention, who carry grace in their walk, who know the difference between validation and value. They see deeper, they look past the surface, and they're not interested in boys playing men. They want strength, stability, substance. A beautiful woman doesn't fall for noise. She's drawn to presence, and presence isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being centered. It's about being grounded. A man with presence walks into the room, and without saying a word, the energy shifts. Why? Because he's not chasing attention. He's at peace with himself, and that self-assurance speaks louder than any words ever could. She notices the way you listen, not just with your ears, but with your eyes, with your body, with your intention. Because in a world full of men waiting for their turn to speak, the man who genuinely listens stands out like royalty. You don't need to solve everything. You just need to care, and believe me, empathy is rare and it is magnetic. Confidence, not arrogance. There's a world of difference. Confidence is when you walk in your truth without trying to prove anything. Arrogance is the mask for insecurity, and a beautiful woman, she sees through masks. She can read energies quicker than a book. She wants a man who's confident enough to uplift others, not belittle them. A man who doesn't compete with her shine, but complements it. Discipline. This is where most men lose. A woman with goals, with beauty and intellect, is not impressed by empty ambition. She watches how you move, how you structure your days, how you stay committed when it's hard, because discipline is masculine energy at its finest. It shows you can lead, not with control, but with clarity. A beautiful woman watches how you treat people who can do nothing for you. The waiter, the driver, the stranger, she knows that your character is revealed in the unseen moments. You can't fake kindness, not the real kind. She's attracted to a man who doesn't perform goodness but lives it. You want to know the secret, emotional intelligence, not emotional chaos. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be self-aware. She watches how you handle stress, how you express pain, how you speak when you're angry. Because how you handle your emotions is how you'll handle hers. And she doesn't have time for men who weaponize silence, disappear to punish, or play emotional games. Ambition with soul. That's what gets her attention. It's not about being a millionaire or driving a fast car. It's about having direction, having purpose. A man who wakes up with intention, who is building something, whether it's his business, his body, or his character, is deeply attractive. Because a woman of substance wants to grow with you, not rescue you. The truth is, beautiful women are tired of games. They're exhausted by inconsistency. They are no longer entertained by charm without character. They want to feel safe, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, and safety is created by consistency. When your words match your actions, when you show up, not once, but repeatedly, because reliability is a love language. Humility, a man who can say, I was wrong. A man who can learn, who doesn't need to dominate every conversation or prove he's always right. That kind of humility, that's rare, that's powerful, because it shows maturity. And maturity is one of the most underrated traits in a world that glorifies ego, and above all, integrity. She watches how you behave when no one is watching, what you do when there's no reward, how you honor your word even when it's inconvenient. Because a man with integrity is not just attractive, he's safe, and to a woman who's healed, safety is everything. So stop asking what kind of car you need to drive. Stop asking what you need to wear or what line will impress her. Start asking yourself, am I the kind of man who makes a woman feel seen, respected, and safe? That's the real flex. That's the man she's waiting for. Presence over performance. This is the line that separates the boys from the men. The authentic from the artificial. The man who leads from within versus the man who pretends for applause. And if you're listening right now, really listening, then you already know somewhere deep down, you've been taught to perform. You've been conditioned to chase approval, to impress, to prove your worth. But what if I told you the most magnetic, the most powerful, the most respected men are the ones who have nothing to prove at all? See, the world will tell you to chase attention, be louder, be funnier, be richer, be more successful, post more, show more, flex more, and yet the men who actually shift the energy in a room when they walk in, they don't do it with noise. They do it with presence. They don't demand to be seen. They already are, because presence is felt before it's heard, and it's not about charisma, it's about depth, it's about stillness, it's about being so anchored in who you are that you don't need a stage to shine. A man with presence doesn't scramble to be accepted. He chooses his space. He doesn't need to take up all the air in the room just to feel significant. His quiet is louder than other men's shouting, because his energy is rooted in truth, not theatrics. It's not what he says, it's how he carries himself. It's in the silence between his words. It's in the way he makes eye contact, not to intimidate, but to connect. It's in his body language, open, calm, and intentional. Presence is the language of grounded confidence, and it can't be faked. Performance, on the other hand, is exhausting. You feel it, don't you? That constant pressure to be liked. That subtle anxiety around being interesting enough, entertaining enough, alpha enough. And every time you perform, you sacrifice a piece of your authenticity. You dilute your truth in exchange for applause that never lasts. You become dependent on reactions, addicted to validation, and the sad truth. The more you perform, the less you are truly seen. Because beautiful women with discernment, depth, and value, they are not drawn to masks. They are drawn to men who have removed them. And let's be honest, presence requires courage. It means being okay with silence. It means showing up without filters, without needing to dominate, impress, or entertain. It means being secure enough to simply be. Most men are terrified of this. Because presence demands you sit with your insecurities instead of hiding them behind noise. It forces you to face the parts of yourself you usually cover up with distractions. But once you get there, once you taste that kind of self-trust, everything shifts. You stop seeking permission to exist. You stop trying to be enough, because you realize you already are. A man with presence doesn't just enter a room. He alters its frequency, not with drama, but with depth. People lean in, not because he's loud, but because he's real. You feel safe around him. You feel seen. He doesn't try to be someone he's not, and ironically, that is what makes him unforgettable, because presence is the manifestation of peace. Inner peace, and in a world full of overstimulated, anxious, distracted people, peace is rare, and therefore irresistibly attractive. You want to know what presence looks like in practice. It's the man who listens more than he speaks. The man who doesn't rush to fill the silence because he's not uncomfortable in it. The man who allows people to express themselves without hijacking the conversation. He's not the one interrupting to prove he knows more. He's the one who makes you feel like your words matter because he's not reacting, he's responding, and that difference is everything. A man with presence is intentional with his time, his energy, his words. He doesn't speak just to speak. He doesn't act to impress. He moves with purpose. And when he gives you his attention, it feels like the whole world slows down. He's not scrolling through his phone while you talk. He's not half there. He's fully present, and that is rare. In a culture of endless distraction, the ability to be fully here is a superpower. When a woman meets a man with presence, she feels it before she can name it. It's in the way he holds space, the way he stands. Not trying to dominate, but not afraid to take up space either. the way he speaks with clarity, not confusion, the way he pauses before he responds, the way his energy is rooted, not reactive. And what that tells her, without him needing to say a word, is that he's done the inner work, that he's faced his shadows, that he's not chasing her to feel whole, that he is already whole, and that his attraction to her is from a place of overflow, not emptiness. Because, make no mistake, beautiful women can sense desperation, even when it's dressed up in confidence. They can smell insecurity, even when it's wrapped in success. They feel the difference between a man who wants them to fill a void and a man who simply wants to share his fullness. And that's why presence is so powerful. It's the posture of a man who isn't trying to get something out of her. He's there to give, to build, to connect, not because he's lacking, but because he's already aligned. You can't fake presence. You can't script it. You can't learn it from a dating coach or a YouTube tutorial. You cultivate it in solitude, in discipline, in healing. You cultivate it every time you choose integrity over image. Every time you sit with your feelings instead of numbing them. Every time you honor your word, even when no one is watching. Presence is born from alignment, from living in truth, from mastering yourself. And the truth is, performance might impress the world, but it won't attract the right woman, because what impresses many often fails to inspire the one that matters. She's not looking for entertainment. She's looking for essence. She's not looking to be dazzled. She's looking to be understood. And a man who is performing is too busy pretending to ever truly connect. So stop chasing applause. Start building alignment. Stop trying to be high value in the eyes of strangers and start becoming deeply valuable in your own. That shift alone will transform your energy, and people will notice without you trying, without you reaching. Because that's the irony of presence. The less you chase, the more you attract, not by withdrawing, but by radiating something real, and real is rare. In a world of actors, the man who is present, fully, authentically, unapologetically present, becomes unforgettable. Emotional intelligence and integrity, these are not soft traits. They are the backbone of masculinity. They are the foundation upon which trust is built, connection is deepened, and respect is earned, not demanded. And if you are a man listening to this, understand this clearly. These two traits alone can set you apart in a world full of emotional chaos and shallow motives. Because beautiful women, women with real power, are no longer moved by external status. They are moved by internal mastery, and no amount of charm, money, or charisma can replace the deep safety she feels in the presence of a man who is emotionally aware and morally grounded. You see, emotional intelligence is not about being overly sensitive. It's not about crying all the time or being consumed by feelings. No, it's the exact opposite. Emotional intelligence is strength under control. It's clarity in the storm. It's awareness in the midst of pressure. It's being able to feel deeply without being controlled by those feelings, because a man who has no control over his emotions becomes a danger, not only to others, but to himself. And no matter how good looking he is, no matter how successful, if his emotions are wild, unpredictable, and unmanaged, he becomes a liability, not a leader. A man with emotional intelligence doesn't avoid his feelings, he understands them. He doesn't hide behind anger just because sadness feels vulnerable. He doesn't run from discomfort or escape into distractions when life hits hard. He sits with it, he owns it, he processes it, and that kind of maturity is rare. But it is magnetic, because emotional intelligence makes a man safe. And safe doesn't mean boring. Safe means grounded. Safe means stable. Safe means you don't have to walk on eggshells around him, because you know he's not going to explode, collapse, or manipulate when things don't go his way. He's not afraid to express himself, but he does it with intention, not with impulsiveness. He doesn't raise his voice to prove a point. He doesn't weaponize silence. He doesn't punish with distance or disappear to create fear. He communicates, he listens, he asks questions instead of making assumptions, and that kind of communication builds a relationship that's not just passionate, but peaceful, because you can't build a future on eggshells. You build it on understanding, and here's the truth. Emotional intelligence is not something you're born with. It's something you build through trial, through pain, through reflection, through taking responsibility for your actions and not blaming the world for your patterns. You become emotionally intelligent when you stop projecting your wounds and start healing them. You stop expecting a woman to fix what you've never faced. You stop making your emotions everyone else's problem and start owning your inner world. That's what separates the man who grows from the man who just ages. And then there's integrity. And without it, emotional intelligence is nothing but manipulation. Because when a man learns how to express emotions but lacks integrity, he becomes a master of deception. He uses words to gain access. He uses vulnerability to disarm. But his actions don't align with his promises, and women see it, they feel it, because integrity is the alignment of what you say, what you do, and who you are when no one is looking. And a man who lacks that cannot lead. He cannot be trusted. He may appear strong, but he's cracked at the core. A man with integrity doesn't need to explain himself 100 times. His consistency speaks louder than his intentions. His presence is his promise. He doesn't say things just to sound good. He says them because he means them, and when he says something, he follows through. He shows up even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. Because integrity is not tested when things are easy. It's tested when things get messy, difficult, and uncomfortable. Do you still keep your word when no one is watching? Do you still act right when you have nothing to gain? That's integrity. Beautiful women are not impressed by perfection. They're drawn to truth, and truth has no performance. It's felt. When a woman feels a man has integrity, her guard naturally lowers. Not because he demands her trust, but because his character earns it over time. You can't fake that. You can't rush that. You have to live that every day, every decision, every moment. Your reputation is not built in the spotlight. It's built in the quiet, unseen choices. When a man lacks emotional intelligence, he reacts out of impulse. He breaks things he later regrets. He blames people for his pain. He plays the victim even when he's the villain. He doesn't know how to pause, how to breathe, how to regulate, and eventually, even the most beautiful relationship begins to decay, not because there was no love, but because there was no emotional maturity to hold it. But a man who's emotionally intelligent, he doesn't need to win every argument. He chooses peace over pride. He knows when to speak and when to listen. He knows when to lead and when to lean in. He knows how to be soft without being weak and how to be strong without being cruel. He doesn't let his past dictate his future. He learns, he adapts, he evolves, and that evolution is attractive. Because what a woman really wants is not just a man who can make her laugh or make her feel butterflies. She wants a man who can hold her in her chaos without collapsing in his. A man who can lead from his heart, not just from his ego. A man who doesn't run when things get hard, but leans in, faces the discomfort, and says, "I'm not going anywhere." That is the kind of masculine presence that moves her soul. Integrity without emotional intelligence is rigid, cold, robotic. It may be dependable, but it lacks connection. It can't navigate the depth of a real relationship because it's stuck in duty, not emotion. And emotional intelligence without integrity is dangerous. It may feel passionate, romantic, intense, but it lacks trust. It confuses the heart, excites the mind, but ultimately breaks the soul. You need both. The heart and the spine, the emotion and the ethic. the feeling and the follow-through, and the best part, these traits don't expire, they don't fade with age, they don't disappear with hardship, they grow. They deepen, they expand. The more you develop emotional intelligence and integrity, the more peace you bring to your own life and to the life of the woman you love. You stop creating chaos. You start creating legacy. You become the kind of man who leads not by power, but by presence, not by force, but by example. The world tells you to be rich, be dominant, be alpha, but what if I told you, be emotionally mature and you'll be irresistible? Be a man of integrity and you'll be unforgettable, because what the soul craves is not perfection, it's peace, and peace can only be given by a man who has mastered himself, not the one who performs it, but the one who lives it. Discipline and direction, two words that may not sound romantic, but they are some of the most attractive traits a man can possess, not just to any woman, but especially to a woman who is beautiful in her mind, secure in her heart, and sovereign in her standards. Because such a woman does not fall for potential. She's not waiting to be convinced by charm, smooth talk, or temporary excitement. She looks for consistency. She looks for leadership. She looks for a man whose life is ordered by purpose and guided by principle. And without discipline, purpose becomes just another dream that never sees the light of action. A man without discipline is a man at war with himself. He might have desires, but no direction. He might talk about goals, but he doesn't get up early to chase them. He makes promises, but forgets the power of commitment. He wants love, but doesn't know how to build a stable home for it. He wants to be respected, but he doesn't govern himself. And in the eyes of a woman who has done the work on herself, that's not strength, it's chaos. Because if you can't lead yourself, how can you lead anything else? Discipline is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about showing up even when the mood isn't there. It's about doing what's required, not just what's easy. It's not about the gym selfies, the hustle quotes, or the highlight reel. It's about waking up and choosing your values over your feelings every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because a man who is ruled by discipline doesn't fold under pressure. He doesn't need someone to babysit his ambition. He doesn't chase a million things at once. He has a standard, and he keeps it even when no one is clapping. That kind of man is rare, and in a generation addicted to instant gratification, that kind of man is magnetic. Because he has depth, he has structure, he lives with boundaries, he says no when he should, he says yes when it aligns. He's not pulled in every direction by impulse or opinion. He knows who he is, he knows what he's doing. And most importantly, he knows where he's going. That's direction. Direction is power, because a man who knows where he's going doesn't panic when others don't understand him. He doesn't break under rejection. He doesn't lose himself trying to please. He doesn't jump from one woman to another, hoping to find himself through their validation. His path is not dependent on attention. It's rooted in mission. And when a woman sees a man with clear direction, she sees stability. She sees clarity. She sees someone who isn't here to play games. He's here to build something with vision, with order, with intention. And here's the truth. When a man lacks direction, his energy becomes scattered. His relationships suffer. His focus is weak. His time is wasted. And the woman in his life ends up feeling like she has to mother him, guide him, motivate him. But a woman doesn't want to raise a man. She wants to respect one. She wants to be part of his vision, not the creator of it. And that can only happen when he has direction that flows from within, not just from outside pressure. You can always tell when a man has direction. He walks differently, talks differently, not with arrogance but with assurance, not with loudness but with certainty. He doesn't need to convince people he's going somewhere. His life shows it. His calendar shows it. His habits show it, and that is deeply attractive to a woman who is serious about her own life, because she doesn't want chaos. She wants a partner who adds clarity to her world, not confusion. Discipline is what protects direction. Without discipline, direction dies in distraction. You can have the greatest plan in the world, but if you can't say no to comfort, you'll never get there. If you can't manage your desires, your future becomes a fantasy. And a man who cannot delay gratification cannot carry the weight of real love, because love requires consistency, it requires sacrifice, it requires effort not once but daily, and that kind of consistency only comes from a disciplined life. It's not about being cold or robotic. It's about having emotional maturity. A man with discipline doesn't need to be told twice. He follows through, he honors time, he respects energy. He understands that leadership is not about control, it's about responsibility. He knows that being a man means holding space, not creating pressure, and women who value themselves will always gravitate toward the man who is ordered from within, because in that discipline she sees safety. She sees a man who won't crumble when life gets hard, a man who doesn't run to addiction, distraction, or destruction when faced with stress, a man who turns to God, to values, to stillness, to truth. That kind of man is more attractive than anything money can buy, because his strength is rooted in something real, something internal, something earned, and it makes her feel secure, not because he's trying to impress her, but because she sees who he is when no one is looking. And don't mistake discipline for suppression. A disciplined man doesn't hide his emotions. He channels them. He doesn't explode when he's angry. He pauses. He doesn't beg for attention. He stands tall in solitude. He doesn't need to be entertained 24/7. He has depth. He has substance. He creates before he consumes. He gives before he demands, and that energy, it's rare, it's irresistible, because it speaks louder than words. Direction is not just about career. It's about purpose. It's about being connected to something bigger than yourself. It's about knowing why you wake up, why you push forward, why you say no to distractions and yes to development. A man with direction doesn't just drift. He's not aimless. He has vision, and that vision organizes his life. It gives him priorities. It teaches him how to value his time, his health, his relationships. And a woman who is building her own kingdom will always recognize the man who is rooted in his. You can't fake this. You can't rent discipline. You can't borrow direction. It's not a filter. It's not a performance. It's who you are when no one is checking on you. It's the way you show up when there's no reward. It's the choices you make when the world is sleeping. That's what defines a man, and that's what attracts a woman who knows her worth. Because when she looks at you, she's not asking if you're perfect. She's asking if you're reliable, if you can be trusted with her heart, her time, her presence. She's asking if your habits reflect your words, if your life has structure, if your yes means yes and your no means no, because she knows that a man with discipline and direction doesn't just love with intensity, he loves with intention, and that kind of love is rare. That kind of love is real, and that kind of love is worth everything. So if you want to be attractive to a woman who is beautiful inside and out, work on your discipline. Get clear on your direction. Because when you do, you don't have to chase, you attract. You don't have to impress, you express, and the right woman will see you, not for who you pretend to be, but for who you truly are, strong, steady, grounded. A man who doesn't just live by default, but by design. A woman can be drawn to beauty. She can be pulled by power. She can be intrigued by intelligence. But what makes her stay, what earns her trust and unlocks her softness, is how a man makes her feel in his presence. Not just when things are good, but especially when they're not. And the truth is, the most beautiful women, the ones who have depth, awareness, and emotional intelligence, are not simply looking for attraction. They are looking for kindness, they are looking for respect, and more than anything, they are looking for safety, because a woman's heart is not made of stone. It is not built for war. It is meant to open, to feel, to express, to nurture, to support. But she cannot do any of that if she does not feel safe in your presence, and safety is not about physical protection alone. Safety is emotional, it's spiritual, it's mental, it's the way you speak, the way you look at her, the tone you use when you're angry, the way you handle her vulnerability, the way you speak about other women when she's not around, the way you respond to her when she's not at her best. These moments reveal everything. You can be charming, successful, and even seductive, but if your energy feels threatening, if your words feel cutting, if your love feels conditional, she will slowly shut down, not because she's dramatic, not because she's weak, but because her spirit can't bloom in an atmosphere of tension. She cannot give her femininity to a man who demands it instead of earning it. She cannot relax into herself if she's always bracing for the next disrespect, the next dismissal, the next emotional punch, masked as just being honest. Women don't want to be fixed, they want to be felt. They want to be understood, not studied, and that begins with kindness. Kindness is not weakness. In fact, it's the highest form of strength. It's the ability to hold power and still choose gentleness. It's choosing compassion even when you're tired. It's the way you listen without interruption, the way you pause before reacting, the way you extend grace instead of judgment. A kind man disarms the world around him. He doesn't need to shout to prove he's right. He doesn't dominate to feel powerful. He leads with humility, and he speaks from a place of self-awareness, not superiority. That energy, it makes a woman feel safe to be herself. Not the perfect version, not the polished version, but the honest, raw, real version, and that is where intimacy begins. Respect is the language of the emotionally mature. It's the space you give her voice, even when you don't agree. It's how you handle her past. It's how you respond to her no. It's the way you speak about her in her absence. It's in the small things. The phone you put down when she's talking, the effort you make to remember her boundaries, the patience you show when she's healing from what you didn't cause. Respect is not about control. It's about honoring her humanity, her complexity, her individuality. You can't love a woman deeply if you don't respect her entirely. So many men want the loyalty of a woman without offering the safety she needs to give it. They want her body, her time, her presence, her submission. But they don't ask themselves the deeper question: what has she experienced before me? What has she had to survive? What masks does she wear just to make it through the day? Because when a woman comes to you, she brings not just her beauty and joy, but her fears, her memories, her defense mechanisms. And if you want to be with a woman in her fullness, you have to be strong enough to hold her softness without breaking it. Safety is not about never making mistakes. It's about how you repair them. It's about the way you take accountability, the way you apologize, not to move on quickly, but to truly understand her experience. A safe man doesn't deflect, he doesn't gaslight, he doesn't use silence as punishment, he communicates, he owns his part, and that accountability is attractive because it tells a woman she's not alone in the relationship. It tells her that she doesn't have to carry the emotional labor for both people. It tells her that her emotions won't be used against her in the next argument, and that kind of safety, that deep emotional reliability, is what makes her heart rest. Because beauty without peace is chaos. Attraction without kindness is manipulation. Romance without respect is a performance, and women who know their worth are no longer interested in illusions. They want real. They want kind. They want steady. They want someone who can hold space for their growth without turning it into a threat. Someone who doesn't just love the best version of them, but walks with them through the messy middle. And that requires a man who is emotionally secure enough to not make everything about himself. It takes maturity to love a woman through her transformation, to not take her tears personally, to not compete with her success, to not silence her expression, to not shame her story. It takes humility to see her not as a reflection of your ego, but as a human being with her own timeline, her own wounds, her own dreams. And if you want to lead a woman in love, you have to first learn how to lead yourself in empathy. That means developing emotional regulation. That means not using anger as a weapon. That means understanding that your tone can either be a home or a hammer. It means choosing patience when you want to react. It means choosing softness when everything in you wants to harden. Because when a woman sees that your kindness is consistent, your respect is unwavering, and your presence is safe, she begins to unfold. She begins to trust. She begins to pour into you, not because you demanded it, but because you cultivated the soil for it to grow. Women do not forget how you made them feel. They may forget what you said, but they will always remember if they had to shrink around you, if they had to explain themselves over and over, if they had to defend their worth, or if they felt seen without having to perform, if they felt loved without having to earn it, if they felt heard without having to scream. The men who leave the deepest marks are not the loudest. They are the safest, the kindest, the ones who understood the assignment wasn't to impress, but to protect. So if you want to be truly attractive to a beautiful woman, not just the outer kind, but the deep, rare, radiant kind, master these 3 things: kindness, respect, safety, not as tactics, but as your truth. Let your presence be a place where her nervous system can relax. Let your words build, not bruise. Let your energy bring peace, not pressure, because the woman you truly want will never bloom in fear. She will never stay where she feels small, and she will never give her soul to a man who only wants her body. But if you show her, through action and consistency, that you are a safe place, not perfect, not flawless, but safe, she will bring you her heart. And when a woman brings you her heart in trust, in honesty, in surrender, there is no greater gift. That's when love becomes more than a feeling. That's when it becomes a home, a shelter, a bond that doesn't just excite you, but elevates you.